Hello everyone. The last cold wax that I did, I got a comment from one of my viewers, and she said she was having a hard time with the oiler boiler and scraping off with the bowl scraper. When I talk about the oiler boiler, this is what I'm talking about. It is a container that you can put Gamasol into. That's what I use, or an odorless mineral spirits. I prefer to use Gamasol. And you pour it down in the container, and it has a lid or a top which has a needle point. I'm hoping you can see that. Let me put something dark underneath so you can see it. I don't know if you can see that or not. Yeah, there you go. You can see it. And it comes in several sizes. The blue top, which is the one that I'm using now, is a very fine top. There is another one that is a much bigger top. And that's this one. It has a pink lid, and it gives you a much wider line because the needle itself is much bigger. I think you can tell the difference. I use the pink one sometimes, but I usually use the blue one because I like the finer line. So I'm just about out of Gamasol, so I'm going to pour some Gamasol into my container, and I'll just use it out of my spray bottle. It's almost empty. Now I have it full. A couple of things that I want to go over with you. When you use your oiler boiler, okay, if you touch the wax with this point, it is going to clog. So what you have to do is make sure that you do not touch the wax. Should you touch the wax, immediately wipe it off and then squeeze out some Gamasol so you know that that point is clear. If it still is clogged, if you really got a lot of wax in there, what you're going to do is you're going to take off the lid like so. Let's say this is clogged. Take off the lid and put it down into the Gamasol like so. That will dissolve that most of the time overnight. So 99% of the time your clog will be gone if you do that overnight. But make sure it's into the Gamasol. So that is the oiler boiler. I get these from Amazon, and this particular brand that I use is Gaunt, G-A-U-N-T. And you can buy a pack of 2, which has the pink one in it and the blue one. So, and I sell these in my cold wax classes for those who want to use them. So at any rate, people are having problems when they're pulling it with the Messermeister scraper or whatever scraper they're using. They're getting color off. So I'm going to do a quick video on how to use an oiler boiler with a scraper. Now this scraper, again, is the Messermeister scraper. And it's a silicone scraper, and I get it off of Amazon. And I already have some paint mixed up in cold wax, and I always start 50-50 percentage, 50% cold wax, 50% oil. If you are working on a canvas, you might want to go 30% or 40% cold wax to oil because the canvas itself is flexible. If you're working on paper like so, and it's going to have a hard board behind it, or if you're working on board, you can use 50% or more. The more cold wax you use, the more transparent your color becomes. Now, I have already taken a 9x12 piece of the Arches oil paper, and here it is. The Arches oil paper does say for oil, and this particular size is a 9x12. And what I did is I drew on there 2 8x10s with a 5x7 inside. And after I take my tape off, you understand what I'm saying. And I have already drawn on both of these. And what I used was the art crayon by Marabou. And these have become my favorite mark making tools. They come in many different colors, and they're very, very creamy. They do dry overnight, usually within 24 hours. But what I did with this, after I drew on here, and I also used a Sharpie for a thinner line, you don't want your lines to be all the same thickness. So that is why I use a thinner line as well. So I've already drawn on both of my papers, and this one, or both of them, I did seal with cold wax. So there is a layer of cold wax on both. And then this one, I put another coat of Chinese orange. I wanted to show you a couple different things what can happen. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some lagoon blue with some white, and then I'm going to paint both pieces with this lagoon blue that has been lightened with white. And again, as I said, I have already put my cold wax into it. Now, as you can see, your scraper will take off as much as you want off. I can have it very, very thick, like so. Or I can have it thin, like this. This side has the color on it too. So I'm just going to spread it across. I'm going to have parts of it pretty thick and other parts of it fairly thin. And on this one, I'm going to do the same thing. You can brayer it on, you can do whatever you want. But I'm going to demonstrate how to use the oiler boiler. On both of them. Now, on both of them, I have them on fairly thick. Now I'm going to use the oiler boiler, and you're just going to squeeze it, and you're going to draw with it. Now, I did touch it, and I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that ball of wax that's on there? So I am going to wipe it off and squeeze. And some did come out, so I do know that it's not clogged up. Now, I just put this blue paint on, so it is very wet. When it's very wet, you should wait maybe 30 seconds. If it's not real wet, you might have to wait a minute, you might have to wait 2 minutes, but you're going to experiment. Some people get this technique right away, other people have to play with it for a little while. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold, it's been about 30 seconds, I'm going to hold this at an angle. Can you see that? I'm not holding it straight up and down. I'm holding it at an angle, and I'm lightly pulling it. So now you can see there is some orange coming down. Now what I can do is I can do it again. Very little pressure. And you can see I even got it more. Now, if I hold it straight up and pull, can you see what happens? Almost all of it comes off. I had a harder pressure, and I did not hold it at an angle. So I'm going to put that color back down again and let it sit. And what I'm going to do is I am going to, just for a better example, I'm going to cover this one with darker blue so you can see it better. You can still see my lines. That's how transparent cold wax is. I'm going to let this one sit the way it is. Now I'm going to draw again with the oiler boiler. I'm going to let it sit for about 30 seconds and then we're going to pull it. Every time you pull, you want to wipe this because you have a build-up of paint on here, and if you pull it again without wiping it off, you're just going to smear your paint. So I'm going to wait another maybe 10 seconds and we're going to do this one again. And I only have to wait about 15 minutes because this layer of paint is very thick. Is very wet. At an angle, again. Very little pressure. So this is what I got off. Now I'm going to wipe it. And I'm going to do it again because it should have gone down to the orange and it didn't. So I'm going to go this way. There you can now see it a little bit. And that way. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of white down and a couple of other colors on this one. I just want to keep using my oiler boiler for you to be able to see what's going on. This is just plain white. I'm going to let this one sit for a while. Now, I'm going to let this sit for about, 20 minutes, and then I'm going to come back to it. I have other things to do in my studio today because I'm getting ready to go to northern Pennsylvania to do some plein air painting tomorrow morning. So I'm going to be out of town for a little bit. So I am just going to let this sit for about 30 minutes, and I will waited be back. 30 minutes. The white side is still very wet, and I'm going to put my hand on it so you can see what I mean when I say very wet. Let me go to the blue one first. The blue one is dry, all but this spot right here. The white one is still pretty wet, as you can see. So I'm going to put another color down on both. And I want to put a color down that you can see. I'm going to do an olive green on this one. I'm not making a painting. I'm just demonstrating the process. And I'm going to put it down with this. And I'm barely touching it because if I push down too hard, it's going to blend with that white. And I don't want it to blend because the white is wet. So I'm just barely touching it. Barely touching it. I am going to use that same olive green on this side. And you can see I'm holding my bowl scraper at an angle. And I can push down harder on this because it is dry. Almost. It's just in a tacky stage. This is wetter because this has more layers than this. The more layers you get, if you're working wet into wet, the wetter it's going to become. I'm going to do the oiler boiler again, just to show you again how to use this. And before I start, I'm going to wipe this. And I'm going to wait for about 15-20 seconds because it's very wet. I think what I'm going to do is I'll pull it at about 15-20 seconds on this one, and I'll let this one go for a while, a little bit longer, so you can see the difference. And I'm going to pull this way so you might get a better chance, or I'll pull it down, then that way you can see the angle. My angle is going to be about a 45-degree angle, not up and down. Okay, now I'm going to pull this, and I'm not going to put too much pressure. I'm going to do a light pressure. And as you can see, I did not wait long enough on this one because we didn't get anything to happen. I'm going to pull it this way. Nope. Because it's for whatever reason. And I'm going to wait about another 15 seconds and I'm going to pull this one. And of course I have wiped this again. Okay, I'm going to start with this one now. This one's been on here for, I'm going to say, about a minute. Here I put more pressure down. Look at all of the paint that I picked up. I'll wipe that off. Wipe it good. And I'm going to pull this one again. I've taken off almost all of my green, and I did not want to do that. But I want to show you something. Let me pull this one first. Did I put any more on here? Yes. If I take my oiler boiler, and let's say I want to go down to the orange, because none of my orange is showing, my blue is showing, a little bit of my white is showing, a little bit of my green is showing, but I want some of that orange to show, that original color. So I'm just going to squirt some right there, and I'm going to let it on a little bit longer. Now this is showing up white because it was white underneath. I did not start with a particular color. Can you see how I have picked up the yellow? So I am going to see if I can create a line with that yellow. In other words, I just keep putting it on until I get down to the color I want. Let's say I have 6 or 7 different colors. I can put that oiler boiler Gamasol in it on a line that I have already drawn and go down deeper. Now, one thing I will say about the Gamasol is your weakest solvent, or odorless mineral spirits is your weakest solvent. Something that would be stronger than this is the Citrusol concentrate. So sometimes I'll use Citrusol concentrate and it will go deeper. Something that goes the deepest, that is the strongest, is orange terpene. And you can Google orange terpene on Amazon, and you can buy that in the bottle. Sometimes I'll use that as well, depending on how many layers down I want to go. So there you can see I went down pretty far. Now I have many different colors. So I don't know if that helped you or not. I just want you to know that when you are using your oiler boiler, hold it at an angle, like so. Very little pressure, and you will get what you're looking for. I'm going to do one more pull, and then I'm going to call this demo done. But I just wanted to show you how to use your oiler boiler and how to use your scraper with it. At an angle and lightly. Now you can see I have some yellow lines. But let's say, now this is not very yellow right here. Let's say I want an area here to be very yellow. I am just going to draw a line right there. And I'm going to put some right here. I want this to come up yellow. And you can see I have some nice white lines going on here. And they're white because my original color was white. I did not put a color down. Now, this is one of the reasons why I use a colored gesso, If I would have gessoed this, let's say bright green or bright yellow, I could get down to that. There you go. Now can you see how I lifted that there and I made a brighter shape? I hope this helped you guys. So that's the end of the demo. You can see I made this bright and I made this bright right here. Let's just put a dot of bright right there. And I want this to continue this way, this line. And I touched the surface, so I'm going to make sure it didn't leak. So I'm going to take this off. There, I have a nice bright spot there. There we go. So that's how I do this. Now, I'm not going to bother taking the tape off of this because I will, when I come back from my plein air artist retreat, I'm going to work these into paintings. Right now they're a mess. But I am going to be gone for a few days, and then when I come back on Friday, I am teaching a 3-day workshop, the abstract landscape in cold wax. I have 8 people coming, some as far as away from Alabama, to take the workshop with me, so I'm really looking forward to that. So I am not going to be putting anything on YouTube for at least a week unless I do some videos at the retreat. I'm not sure if I'm going to or not. I am going to demonstrate cold wax while I'm up there. There is a group of artists coming. I think there's like 25 plein air oil painters going, and none of them have used cold wax. So the gal who's running the artist retreat has asked me to come up to demonstrate cold wax to them. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to be going up there. There, I just made that white. Okay, guys, thanks a lot. If you have any more questions or comments on how to use this, just leave me a comment and I'll respond. Just remember, the drier your surface is, the longer you have to wait. If it's very wet, you can pull it almost immediately. But sometimes I'll let these things sit for 3 or 4 minutes before I pull. And if I have 5 or 6 layers, I'll keep going down and putting it on that same line to keep going down further. So just remember to hold your bowl scraper at a 45-degree angle, and the first pull make very light, and then you can pull more if you want. But if you pull real hard, as you saw in that first demonstration I did, I took all the paint off. So hope that helps. Thanks guys for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great day.